3.7 Ras Nahom, on the street. For a long time after the demolitions, Ras Nahom moved through Addis like someone half awake. The streets he had known since childhood were now corridors of scaffolding and dust. Every few days, another wall disappeared. The smell of coffee from the corner roastery was gone. So was the laughter that used to spill from the tailor's shop. Even the cats seemed quieter, skulking through rubble that still radiated heat. And the dogs had it the worst. He carried a small cloth bag. Inside were a cracked mirror, a family photograph that had survived the fires, and a notebook where he wrote names, his own private census of the vanished. Solomon Tesfaye called Engish, Abule, Itete and her boy, Kecho, Surafel, Mike. The list grew until the pages filled with absence. For the first weeks, he slept in what was left of his family compound, under a leaning wall. Rain pooled on the ground, turning the ashes into grey paste. At night, the police patrolled with flashlights. They kicked awake whoever they found. Once, a boot caught his ribs, and he tasted blood. He learned to rise before dawn and move on before they arrived. By day he wandered, sometimes joining groups of displaced families near the bus station, sometimes walking alone along Churchill Avenue, trying not to look like a beggar. Bitini aferesawe managade laye eyathalunye enediti hagari nachelebale. How can I still claim a country when I have no home? He murmured to himself. Yet even as he said it, he felt the city beating under his feet, stubborn as his own pulse. The government trucks passed now and then, loaded with cement blocks and banners announcing Addis Ababa corridor development, Phase 2. The billboards showed smiling families in new apartments, wide boulevards lined with trees. None of the faces looked like the people from Kazanchis. The irony was not lost on him. The same word, development, that had once meant progress, now sounded like a threat. He thought of the long arc of suffering the city had survived.
The mass murders and atrocities of the Romans, the executions after their 42 months of inhumane fascist occupation, the purges of the Derg, the hidden prisons of the EPRDF, and now this new form of dispossession and brutal erasure wearing modern clothes. Each regime spoke of renewal, each left ruins behind. In Medemer, Abiy Ahmed had written, "Our past divisions are wounds we must heal through empathy." Medemer, page 103. But empathy, Nahom thought, cannot be commanded. It must rise from shared pain, and pain is what Kazanchis had in abundance. When hunger became too sharp, he found work unloading trucks at the Mercado. The pay was a few birr in a plate of lentils, but it gave the day shape. At night, he joined the others who slept under tarpaulins by the river. They spoke softly, afraid of police raids. One man had lost his wife in the demolitions. Another, a teenager, had not heard from his parents since the eviction. Some nights the conversations turned into prayer. Egizi Abahiri Yanurani. Someone would whisper, "May God keep us," and the rest would echo, not out of faith alone, but because echoing felt like proof that they still existed. He still gave thanks. That astonished him. Gratitude survived even when hope did not. A scrap of bread, a borrowed blanket, a stranger's kindness. Each was grace. He remembered his father's words. Sela sawe, yamaya samawe, sawe machimi, sawe ayahoname. A person who cannot hear others is never whole. The phrase sounded truer now than ever. Weeks turned to months. The rainy season ended, and in its place came heat and dust. People began to drift away, to relatives, to refugee camps, to nowhere in particular. Nahom stayed. He began sketching on scraps of cardboard, maps of the old compound, street corners remembered from childhood, faces of neighbors. One evening, a child looked over his shoulder and said, "Are you drawing Addis Ababa?" "No," he answered. "I'm drawing what's left inside us." When he grew too tired to draw, He opened his notebook and reread the lines from Medemer he had copied earlier. True synergy cannot thrive where justice is absent. Medemer, page 112. He underlined justice 3 times and added beneath it in Amharic, Alamagaba abate, Alamagana anyate, Alamafala alaga, Alamatawa awaka nawe. To live without agreement is to live without meeting. He thought about meeting, how his generation had never truly met the country that claimed them. They were the sons of a city that everyone used but no one defended, citizens of a capital without representation. They were called city boys, as if that were an insult. Yet they had built the nation's streets, sung its songs, and buried its dead. If we are not Ethiopians, he wrote in his notebook, then Ethiopia itself is a myth. One morning as he crossed Haile Selassie, the First Avenue, the first light caught the glass towers rising where Kazanchis had been. He stopped and watched workers installing mirrored panels that reflected the sky, but nothing of the ground beneath. The reflection blinded him for a moment, and in that glare he imagined Engeshu's laughter and Abuli's defiance living somewhere beyond sight. He whispered a prayer. Labalashelish lamulashelish energy lasaweleje boda yali late Addis Ababa atenur sawe akibari fekere adaye Addis Ababa china tenure lahula sini. Let there not be an Addis Ababa that belongs to color, money, or race, but an Addis Ababa that belongs to the people. Then he walked on, the photograph pressed against his chest like a second heart. 3.8 corridors of power. They said it was development. To us it was destruction. It was erasure. It was genocide. Ras Nahom, testimony recorded in exile. From above, the city looks like a success story. Satellite images show new boulevards, towers with mirrored glass, traffic running in clean loops. On paper, Addis Ababa is the pride of a continent, its transformation praised in ministerial speeches and planning documents. The plans carry a single word that has justified every dislocation since fascist Italian occupation: modernization. Inside the offices where those plans are drawn, air conditioners hum and portraits of national leaders hang behind polished desks. Files move between departments: urban renewal, housing development, investment, each stamped with approvals that turn lived neighborhoods into coordinates. These are the corridors of power. Long, quiet, carpeted spaces where language itself changes meaning. Eviction becomes relocation. Loss becomes progress. A person becomes a parcel. The Corridor Development Project, launched with the promise of beautification, expanded along the city's main arteries. It was not the first of its kind. Under the Derg, whole streets were cleared in the name of socialist order. Under the EPRDF, new hotels rose where artisans' quarters once stood. Now the same rhythm continues under new slogans. The continuum, as mentioned, stretches back further still, to the fascist occupation, when Mussolini's planners imagined a segregated Addis with Italians in the highlands and Ethiopians pushed toward the valleys. Each generation has inherited both the maps and the blind spots of the one before. What makes the present moment different is scale and silence. No written eviction orders circulated in Kazanchis. The command came as speech, not paper. When residents protested, officials reminded them that the capital belonged to the nation, not to any group of citizens. Yet the very people who embodied the city's diversity, Amhara, Garage, Oromo, Tigrayan, Somali, Arab, mixed families, were the ones removed first. Development, they discovered, had an accent. The results are measurable. Hundreds of families displaced. Registered heritage buildings, protected under national law, demolished. Street vendors and craftsmen without compensation. Dozens dead or missing, some by suicide, some by neglect. These are not isolated tragedies. They are the pattern of a policy that values land more than life. International law has names for such acts. Forced eviction, the permanent or temporary removal of individuals, families, or communities against their will, without adequate notice, consultation, or compensation, is a violation of the right to adequate housing. When such actions deliberately destroy the cultural or social fabric of a group, they may constitute persecution under the Rome Statute. When they aim to erase the existence of a community as such, the survivors inevitably call it genocide. The law may hesitate to use that word, but those who sleep under tarps do not. In Medemer, Abiy Ahmed wrote, "Leadership means feeling the pain of the people as one's own." Medemer, page 129. Ras Nahom read that line by candlelight in the shelter where he slept. "Then feel this," he whispered, looking at the scar on his shoulder, where a policeman's baton had left a bruise that never quite faded. Around him, other men listened, some nodding, some crying quietly in the dark. They were the population that the corridors of power never measured, the citizens who carried the cost of synergy on their backs. The city's new towers cast their shadows across the camps where the displaced live. From a distance, the glass reflects the sky so perfectly that it hides what lies beneath. But when the light changes, you can see the outlines of people moving below. Thin, slow figures weaving between unfinished walls. That too is Addis Ababa, a metropolis built on the labor and loss of its own children. To call it genocide is to insist that memory not be buried under euphemism. It is to say that culture itself can be killed, that a way of living can die without a single bullet fired. Whether the jurists agree or not, the survivor's word stands as moral truth. Their testimony transforms the corridors of power into hallways of accountability. For those who still walk the streets of the vanished quarter, justice begins with naming. "We will speak," Nahom writes in his notebook, "because silence is the final demolition." 3.9. Cultural erasure. The city that once smelled of coffee smoke and tanned leather now smells of cement. Where the voices of merchants once mingled with the songs of beggars, there is only the echo of drills. Kazanchis was not just a place, she was a rhythm. Yar nejareatha fache tharimi, ena yakona jajate, sakoche badari sega, ena chagwara janisi. Tawaza tawe yamisamubate, shisata ena fekare yatatha basubate. Tawa de dawe, tawale dawe yaminurubate safari, beka satehon zima nabarase kazanasisi. Where the sweet taste of injera and sweeter voices of beautiful damsels were heard flavored with raw meat, chigwara, jeans, one of the cultural cuisines of Kazanchis, where love and fun met, got together, bore children and lived in harmony. She wasn't just land or history, she was a symphony of hearts. And her destruction is more than urban renewal, it is the erasure of memory itself. Every regime that has ruled Addis Ababa has tried to redraw it in its own image. The fascists spent billions in their own currency, segregating and building stuff for themselves. When Emperor Haile Selassie I triumphantly returned and reclaimed her, their arcades were repurposed as ministries. Under the Derg, socialist murals covered imperial insignia. Under the EPRDF, glass towers rose where villas once stood. Now under the Prosperity Party, the language of rebirth, corridor, integration, modernity, hides a deeper continuity, the will to overwrite the city's plural soul. Kazanchis was a living archive. Its courtyards held traces of many tongues: Ge'ez, Amharic, Afan Oromo, Guragina, Tigrinya, Arabic. Its churches and mosques faced each other like old friends arguing. Every wall was layered with graffiti, icons, and posters from lost elections. A scholar could read there the history of Ethiopian coexistence. A child could learn what it meant to be from everywhere at once. When the bulldozers came, they did not just destroy buildings, they erased the footnotes of a civilization. They stole from all Ethiopians what the longest line of royalty in
the world left them. UNESCO calls such loss cultural cleansing, the deliberate destruction of a people's heritage as a means of dominating or erasing their identity. The term emerged during the wars in the Balkans, but it belongs equally here. Registered heritage homes, colonial-era villas, artisan houses, the carved doors of Indian merchants, great historical places where noble men and heroes lived. A century of architecture and history, starting from the 1890s, fell with no public record. The destruction of memory is always an act of power. In Medemer, the Prime Minister wrote,
Our differences are ornaments. They make us beautiful when bound in harmony. Medemer, page 141. Yet what harmony can survive when its instruments are shattered? What ornament remains when the craftsmen are dispersed? One afternoon, Nahom walked to where his father's compound had been. The ground was bare except for a single column of concrete that once framed a window. He brushed the dust from its surface and saw, faintly, the carving of a cross, the sign of protection that Ethiopians place on their doorframes. Someone had struck at it with a hammer, but the outline endured. "Even stone remembers," he said aloud. Around him, silence. A few boys kicked a plastic ball over the ruins, laughing, unaware that they played on graves. He thought of the proverb his grandmother loved to repeat, "Hagare ala tarike, sawe ala zena, zere ate kato menedere nakawe." What's a land without history, or a man without discipline? Ethiopia had survived invasions, droughts, and dictators because its people carried their history in song, in prayer, in the way they greeted each other at dawn. To lose Kazanchis was to lose a verse from that song, and seeing what they did to Addis Ababa, it seems the whole chorus is gone. Hence, only lamentations of farewell and despair remain. Cultural erasure is not always loud, sometimes it comes dressed as improvement. It smiles from billboards showing happy families in apartments they will never afford. It holds conferences about urban identity in hotels built on demolished quarters. It invites foreign investors to photograph progress while the displaced scatter just outside the frame. Still, traces remain. The scent of frankincense on Sundays, the call of the Fano flute drifting from a distant alley, the small shrines hidden behind tin fences, candles still burning for saints whose congregations have no churches left. These fragments are resistance. They whisper that culture cannot be fully erased while even one person remembers. Nahom wrote in his notebook that night, "They may own the land, but we carry the map in our blood. When we say Addis Ababa, we do not mean a location. We mean belonging," and he added beneath it, in Amharic script, "Yata zamatabate, yata sarazawe taareke ba'enya yenora ale. Eregethan yenate rasu yemutate, eneji enya esekalane tarikachene, eneda yemote eregethan yochenane." The history they erased lives in us. It will not die until certainty itself dies. 3.10. The Law and the Heart. In every ruined neighborhood, there comes a point when grief becomes language. People begin to speak not only of what was lost, but of what was owed. Words like justice, rights, constitution start to circulate in tea stalls and churchyards. They are heavy words, but they give shape to pain. And pain, when named, becomes testimony. Ras Nahom learned this from the Tigray War and lawyers who, in his own imagination, visited the camps with clipboards and cameras. They asked for signatures, birth dates, photographs of the demolished homes. Evidence, they called it. But how do you photograph a childhood? How do you notarize the loss of a courtyard where 3 families once shared bread? He began to read the documents he imagined they carried: the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, the Guiding Principles on Internal Displacement. Each proclaimed in solemn language that no person should be arbitrarily deprived of home or livelihood. Each promised protection, yet the reality on the ground was still hunger, exposure and silence. In a notebook margin he wrote, "The law is perfect on paper and absent in practice, like rain that falls only in textbooks." Still, he saw a kind of beauty in those texts. They were proof that somewhere in the human imagination, fairness existed. If the heart could feel it, maybe one day institutions could learn it too. He visited a public library one afternoon, one of the few spaces still open to everyone, and asked for the Constitution. The librarian brought a copy wrapped in plastic. He turned the pages carefully. Nowhere did it mention Addis Ababa as belonging to its own people. It spoke of nations and nationalities, but not of the citizens who were all of them at once. The omission was a silence larger than a paragraph. It was a policy. In Medemer, the Prime Minister had written, "Our Constitution must be a living document, breathing with the pulse of our citizens." Medemer, page 158. If that were true, Nahom thought, then the heartbeat had stopped. He looked at the map folded inside the book, the neat grid of the city, each block marked for development. The streets of Kazanchis were blank. The surveyors had already erased them. He closed the map and whispered, Bahege ekule nachehu yelunale, enedasha kawe yafaresunale, yega delunale, yaserebunale. Eneda meneme ayeko theruneme, ayesamuneme. Even though we are equal in law, we are not felt. We are purposefully and systematically starved, murdered, and erased. At night he wrote again, there can be no rule of law without the rule of the heart. He began to imagine what that might mean, a constitution that recognized empathy as a civic duty, governance measured not by growth statistics, but by how the weakest fared. He dreamed of councils where the displaced could speak and be heard, where urban planning included memory as a resource, where the word development would mean the flourishing of life, not the removal of the living. The philosopher's voice returned in his mind, Aristotle's old insight, the one that began this book. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. What if Ethiopia's whole could never be greater until it included even its most wounded parts? What if synergy required the nation to feel the pulse of its capital, the capital to honor its citizens, and the citizens to forgive the city that had broken them? He wrote in Amharic across a torn page, Yahege manefase sawene kale sama hege ayedalame, Yahege enate rexera axi nate. If the spirit of the law does not hear the human, it is not law. The mother of law is compassion. When dawn came, he folded the page and tucked it inside the photo he still carried, the one from his father's house. Law and heart, side by side, waiting for a country that might one day hold both. 3.11. The Civic Blueprint. Reclaiming the pulse. Addis Ababa was never built from blueprints alone, it was sung into being. The sound of hammers followed the rhythm of prayers, and every lane was named by the people who walked it. To rebuild it now is not to pour concrete, but to restore conscience. The survivors of Kazanchis speak of home the way others speak of faith. They imagine a city that protects the fragile and honors the strong, where governance begins with listening, and where untold Medemer, true synergy, becomes a verb rather than a slogan. A city that embodies justice as belonging would rest on 4 living pillars. 1. Memory as infrastructure. Every neighborhood destroyed must be remembered in law. Before a new building rises, a plaque must speak the names of those displaced. Schools should teach the layered past, from the Italians' fascist grids to the Derg's collectivization, to the neoliberal evictions of the 21st century. This is not nostalgia, it is foundation. No city stands long upon forgetting. 2. Representation as oxygen. Addis Ababa, Ethiopia's most diverse body, must breathe through voices of its own. Its citizens deserve seats in the House of People's Representatives, not as guests of any region, but as a constituency of the nation itself. The sons and daughters of Kazanchis, Payasa, Arat Kilo, Shiromeda, Mercato, they are Ethiopia in miniature. Their representation would heal the divide between the imagined Ethiopia and the lived one. Third law as shelter urban policy must begin with protection, not demolition. No development shall proceed without written notice, fair compensation, and community consent, the minimum owed by a state to its citizens. Independent review boards composed of architects, historians, and displaced residents must audit every clearance. Let Medemer mean not merger of power, but multiplication of care. 4. Synergy as practice. The city's energy lies not in steel or glass, but in cooperation. Youth cooperatives in carpentry, metalwork, and design should rebuild what was lost, guided by elders, funded transparently. Every public space should host dialogue, art, and debate, because the measure of a democracy is how well it hears disagreement. In such a city, policy becomes poetry. Planners quote philosophers, poets draft bylaws, and ordinary people sign their names beneath visions of shared life. In Medemer, Abiy Ahmed wrote, "Synergy is the multiplication of hope." Medemer, page 176. Ras Nahom reads the line and replies in his notes, "Then hope must have hands, to build houses, to write laws, to embrace the hungry." He envisions a civic institute of synergy, where displaced families, legal scholars, urban planners and artists meet to design Addis Ababa's second birth, not through coercion, but through compassion. Its motto would be the proverb carved once on his father's gate, "Anedenani," we are one. Such a blueprint would not erase pain, but it would give pain a direction, upward, outward, toward renewal. 3.12 Testimony of Ras Nahom. I am still here.
I, Ras Nahom Ayne'alem, write these words from nowhere and everywhere. The streets have become my classroom. The benches beneath the eucalyptus trees are my parliament. I speak now not as a politician, but as one who has lost everything except the right to speak. I was born in Kazanchis, a place too alive to die quietly. 4 houses stood in our compound. My uncles, my fathers, my aunts, Kechos. Laughter lived between them. Today all 4 are gone, and with them, the safety of generations. My father's room, where I once dreamed of a better Ethiopia, is a parking lot. The orange tree, where children gathered to play, is buried under gravel. Many have passed, many are missing, and in suffering, much is lost. But I am still here. I walk through Addis Ababa, carrying the memories of hundreds, the homeless, the missing, the men who cried like children, the women who died of heartbreak, the elders who whispered blessings to dust. I carry Engishu's broken radio, Abuli's empty chair, my mother's songs. I speak their names so that silence does not win. They called it development. But development that destroys its own people is not progress. It is a polite apocalypse. It is genocide by bureaucracy. Still, I refuse hatred. I choose to believe in what this book began with: synergy. The true kind, not the arithmetic of slogans, but the miracle of coexistence. The sum that grows because it is fed by love. I call for an Ethiopia of empathy, where no tribe claims supremacy, no city claims purity, and no citizen is invisible. Where Addis Ababa, mother of all tongues, finally recognizes her children. Where representation is not a privilege, but breath itself. To the leaders who may one day read this, you will not find stability in silence, nor legitimacy in denial. Power that fears the tears of its people is already undone. Listen while there are still voices left to hear. To my brothers and sisters scattered across exile, sleeping under bridges, praying for return, we are the archive now. Our memories are monuments no bulldozer can reach. As long as one of us remembers, Kazanchis still stands, and Addis Ababa will not die. And to the reader, wherever you are, I leave this invocation. Sawe sawene enedaya bala, biti bitini enedaya thafa, inyami bafekire ina iwinatanya, madamare inidinore egezi abehire yeradane. That no person may destroy another, that no home may consume another, that we may live interwoven. May God help us. I am still here. Addis Ababa still breathes, and the story is not over. It is waiting to be written together. Epilogue, the spiral of synergy. In sacred geometry, the spiral never ends. It widens. Each turn returns but higher. So too must Ethiopia. The pain of Kazanchis is a seed. From it, if watered with justice, will grow a new kind of unity. One that remembers every fracture and chooses healing nonetheless. The whole is greater than the parts, and every part, once acknowledged, makes the whole divine.